Hello, everybody. Don't change that dial. You are tuned in to the latest game developer interview, courtesy of Game Developer Expo 2023. I'm the host of this interview, the Purple Sharpie, and I happen to be here with none other than the legend of Graham of Legend themselves, Graham, who happens to be the lead game director. How are you doing today, Graham?
I'm great, Sharpie. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. So I understand you're here to talk to us about a super project that you're working on.
That's correct. I'm here to talk about my new game. Just came out on Steam. It's called Super Space Club, and it is the dopest, most vibes-filled arcade shooter you'll play this year or probably in life. You get to know.
Well, here at GDOC Expo, we like to keep our viewers in on the exclusive club membership opportunities out here. Why don't we go ahead and roll that trailer showcasing what the project's about?
Navigate jazz. Dreamy, but don't you dare laugh. Trace constellations or pave your own path.
Settle on a system or be a nomad. The skies like limits and wait for no man.
Light speed or slow, always keep composed and know if we cross nodes, I'm traveling by starlight on cruise control. Traveling by starlight on cruise control. Traveling by starlight. Traveling by starlight on cruise control.
Now, Graham, if you'll allow me to say, that trailer was honestly out of this world. What gave you the inspiration to create a game like Super Space Club?
Yeah, so honestly, because it's just me, because I'm a solo developer, I really wanted to kind of learn how to fully use Unity, fully make a bigger project, because this is my first game that isn't on mobile. And so, yeah, I decided, hey, what if I made like as a space shooter, but put my own personal twist on it? And yeah, it
It's
just all came together
interesting.
over a couple of years.
You know, it is interesting that you talk about your own personal twist on this because this game is very unique compared to other games like Asteroid, which is, I'm certain, is a game that you probably used for inspiration, I assume.
Yeah, definitely. Like Asteroid and Space Wars, and those are just the classic arcade shooters. But then there's a lot of other modern games that really inspired me to just make it not just, just a basic you're shooting rocks all over the place.
It is anything but that. You happen to have a very storied collection of songs inside of here, produced in part by Fat Bard. Do you want to talk to us
Yeah,
about why you opted to collaborate with that artist?
absolutely. Yeah. So Fat Bird is a duo of two guys, Pat and Zach, and they're awesome. They are two of the best collaborators I've ever had. And funny enough, I didn't start working with them. I actually started with a different guy named George Hofnagel. But sadly, well, not sadly for me, but great for him, he moved on to work at NetherRealm. So he's doing Mortal Kombat stuff, which is dope. But then he's like, yeah, I'll just put you onto two new guys, Fat Bard, and they've just taken the game to a whole different galaxy. Like they've really crushed it. And yeah, there's nothing I can say. Just listen to it. Listen to the trailer that you just heard. It's everything. They've done a great job.
So, Graham, inside of the trailer, we also hear something very unique to this game that's not necessarily present inside of other games like Asteroid or Space Wars, and that happens to be the soundtrack. It really sets apart this game from several other games inside of this genre. Specifically, I understand that you collaborated with Fat Bard on the soundtrack here. Can you talk to us a little bit more about what went into the production and the idea behind the music inside of this game?
Definitely, yeah. So Fat Bar, they're an amazing duo. I forget where they're based, but they're awesome. It's two guys, Pat and Zach. And funny enough, I never actually started working with them. I started working with a guy named George Hofnagel, and he, funny enough, moved on to NetherRealm to work on like all the dope things. But then yeah, he introduced me to Fat Bird, and it's just been like a match made in heaven ever since. For some reason, I had like a idea to make the game have a lo-fi soundtrack, kind of lo-fi hip-hop vibes. Just because, you know, if you look at every other space game, it's some kind of techno vibes or techno beats or just something very atmospheric. And I just wanted to feel more cool, more fun, you know? And that's a theme that goes throughout the whole game. I didn't want to make it just any other space shoots. I wanted to make it feel like vibes.
And it really does feel like that because there are several different moments that correspond with the gameplay that actually accent the music. I am speaking, of course, about Energy Critical, which kind of becomes really, really unique inside of this game. Inside of other games where your health may go low, obviously you maneuver around, you either get more health packs or it comes up after a certain period of time. Inside of this game, when your health gets low, the music kind of like drops out, the treble and a lot of the midtones completely drop out. You're exclusively dealing with bass, almost lo-fi sounds, and kind of like a pulsating, you need to get out of this area, which I think is really, really unique. Can you talk to us a little bit more about why you chose to integrate gameplay and music so in depth inside of this game?
Of course. I'm not sure if you or anyone watching has ever watched the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, but I remember it starts out and you have Peter Quill, he's just on some planet shooting everything, but he's listening to like 80s or 70s or 80s music. And he's actually, it's not the soundtrack for the movies, he's actually has in earbuds listening to it. And I thought that was really cool. And so I wanted it to feel as if the characters in the game are listening to his music. So every time you get hit, the track kind of skips, like you're listening on a Walkman or something, shows my age. Or like, well, like you said, like you bring up the energy critical thing, when they're really low on energy, it's almost as if they just kind of tune out everything and they're focused on not having to teleport away for safety. And so, yeah, that's how a lot of the audio choices in the game came about. Just I wanted to feel like it's integrated as them in their ship. It's not just a soundtrack to the game.
That totally makes sense. I kind of want to go back a little bit as well and just talk very briefly about how you managed to get that to work inside of Unity. As you've stated previously, you know, like you're really showcasing your talent with Unity inside of this game and pushing yourself to some more of your limits inside of this game and understanding more of what you can do in Unity and just kind of, for lack of a better word here, limit testing Unity here. Was there any mechanics inside the game that you were specifically proud of that you were able to put inside of the finished product in the game?
That's a fantastic question, and I do not have a good answer for you. With all the music and audio stuff, that was all handled by them because we use a third-party middleware called Fmod, and that allowed them to do a lot of really cool things that I just had to plug in some values and it just worked. But they're the ones who made sure all the cool things, the energy criticals, the mids dropping out, the bass dropping out, all that stuff, that's all their magic.
Really,
as for the
really
rest of
cool.
the
Really,
as
really
for the
cool
rest of the
effects.
game, like I'm just happy it works. Just happy it works and I shipped it. Like that's the hard part, you know?
It is incredibly high. Let's go ahead and switch gears and talk very briefly about some of the color palettes that are used inside of the game. In addition to the lo-fi energy that we get from the soundtrack, we also have a really, really eye-pleasing palette. Did that kind of come along with the vision of the game as well, or was that something that kind of came along after you heard the soundtrack?
No, so this came way before. This became like before I even spoke to George initially about the music. Another big inspiration is the first Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. The music in that movie, the visuals, everything. And when I first made the game, just a prototype, it was all black and white because, you know, Asher is black and white. And then I watched that movie and I came home and I just opened Photoshop and started to make mock-ups because it's just such a visually stunning experience. And so I wanted to replicate that, but in a game.
Visually stunning is an apt way to describe it because at every single moment that you're watching the gameplay, you, as a spectator, just are so fulfilled with everything happening on the screen. And it almost seems like it doesn't make sense, you know, in a certain way, because you're like, oh my God, there's so many things. How can you possibly navigate it? But something that I think you did that's very, very impressive inside of this game is that the playing experience still manages to be incredibly calm, very, very comfortable. And that's because of the color differentiations inside of the game, the little tiny bits of nuance that tell the player, by the way, this is friendly, this is against. So once again, getting into kind of more of the color palette specifically regarding the enemy colors being yellow and the player's colors occasionally being red, sometimes a darker orange or something along those lines, with obviously it just being a question of dodging the white. How much of that was intentional and how much of that just came together when you got the color schemes right?
All of everything you just said. It's all intentional. It's game
All
design is a
intentional.
challenge. Yeah, it's all intentional. But for real though, like game design is definitely like it's a challenge. And you want to make sure people know what they're doing and what's good, what's bad, what won't hurt you. And yeah, essentially I just made sure that the colors, along with the music, really gave you a sense of calm and zen. But also, like you said, you know what will hurt you and what won't hurt you. And so, yeah, I just made sure that the contrast was there enough because like color theory is really important in games, so especially for like accessibility and all that stuff.
Yes.
And yeah, I just made sure that the contrast levels are up. It was pleasing to look at, and you just know, you know what to shoot and what not to shoot.
So, Graham, inside of the game, kind of going back a little bit to the characters, obviously they all have very specific techniques that allow them to have an easier time inside of the game and getting through the different obstacles of each wave. I kind of want to talk a little bit more about where some of these concepts came from. And I did have an opportunity to play a couple of them. I know that Xander has shield, Ollie has the explosives, which are the two characters that you start off with, but you also have Gertie, who kind of has the ability to break asteroids, thereby creating additional projectiles. But you also have Roscoe and Sasha, who, well, I'll allow you to explain their mechanics and the importance of them.
Of course. So what you're not mentioning is that these characters are all anthropomorphic heroes, and that's essentially where the game design came from. I didn't just choose these characters and then picked a random ability. Like I wanted to make sure that it made sense. So like Xander's a pangolin, and pangolins have very hard skin, and so he has a shield. And Sasha's a antelope, and they're very fast. They just can bolt off, and so she had like a blink, and so on and so forth. Like I made sure that all the design just made sense. And then also I just wanted to have dope looking characters in the game. Like again, just vibes. And so yeah, that's essentially how they came about.
So, in addition to the pilots being very unique, the ships themselves are also very unique and have a series of different properties. You can use these and mix and match these with the pilot to achieve different gameplay results. How intentional of a design option was the editing of the ships, and how much did you look to inspiration to any other games or any other specific play styles that you want to achieve inside of the game?
Yeah. So with the characters, weapons, and ships, I really wanted to have it feel diverse. I want to feel like you as a player can do any kind of combo you want. Because you know you have different games, like you have your MOBAs, you have your shooters, all that stuff, where you can be like a really stealthy character, like a glass cannon. You can be the heavy tank or anything like that. And I wanted to kind of emulate that in Super Space Club. And funny enough, it never started like that. Initially, I just had the one character, one weapon, one ship, and that was supposed to be the whole game. With a ship like 3 years ago, I don't know. But yeah, it eventually just kind of grew and grew and grew as games tend to overscope. And now, yeah, you just have different things that I hope are balanced. I'm still trying to balance them every day. But there's no ship that's better than the other. It's more about your preferences and just play style.
Coming from an understanding of the ethos of this game being more about like just vibing and having a great time rather than trying to get too intense, it totally makes sense that the ship allows you to customize these different combinations. But it also plays upon the fact that there are additional things to do inside of the games besides just those customizations, besides just clearing the waves. You also have objectives inside of the game that are required to be cleared and kind of like focused on being cleared as you go through the game. Did the objectives come in early inside of the stage of development, or was this something that you kind of added in after you already had the basis of the game created?
So funny enough, I from the jump, I had those objectives planned, or I had objectives in general planned, but I never actually implemented them until very late in the game. I don't know why, I just didn't. I think I just really wanted to make sure that all the different loadouts felt right, just felt good. And then I'd base objectives on those. Because I mean, it's not like some heavy story or anything. It's just like you said, it's just you're really vibing, you're really focused on the experience of playing. But I want to give you more to do while you're doing all of that, and that's where the objectives come in. So yeah, they've been
Totally
around,
makes
but
sense.
it's not it's very last minute in terms of implementing them.
What's not last minute inside of the game is the accessibility in terms of playtime. You actually have the options to not only play on mouse and keyboard if you happen to be playing on PC, but you also have the option of playing on several different 7 different controllers. Specifically, I believe you have the controller prototype in there that appears to be an Xbox controller. Obviously, from your very start of the creation of this game, it's obvious that this game is not exclusively meant to be played on PC. And I understand that you are in the process of coming out with this game as well on Xbox. Can you talk to me about
Yeah.
your journey on coming out with this game on different platforms outside of just PC?
Of course. It's hard. Porting porting to consoles is
It's
very hard.
hard.
That's my whole answer. No, yeah, so like I said, this is my first non-mobile game, and I wanted to do just initially I just planned to do Steam, and then I started talking with ID at Xbox, and then it was an Xbox game, and I was like, oh, this maybe I can do this. And so I'm just doing the porting myself. And I won't say
Nice.
that's a mistake, but it's hard. It's definitely
It's
a
very
learning
hard.
experience for sure. And
Well, welcome to the exclusive club of developers who have all opted to port their own games. Well, Graham, thank you so much for taking time today to talk to us about Super Space Club, and wish you the best of luck on your journey in the game team of Graham of Legends. Hopefully,
so
this
much.
game joins that list of legends.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Everybody, thank you so much for tuning into this game developer interview. As always, make sure that you support this game and feast upon the amazing visuals that is Super Space Club right now on Steam. And be sure to follow Graham of Legend on their website, GrahamOfLegend.com, to figure out more of what's coming out with future projects, and to tune into the game coming out soon on Xbox. That's going to do it for this game dev interview. Stay tuned for even more Game Devs of Color Expo 2023.